Thank you.
Yeah.
But I think that we should try and keep that separate, because I know the last bill was for work that Davey did around the village hall, trimming trees and whatnot. And that should be under a maintenance thing as opposed to, I think, and so maybe we could review that.
Okay.
I'm sorry I'm bringing it up here. I should have brought it up
It's okay.
before, but I think we should review where that's getting posted.
Okay. All right. All right. Let me make a note and then we can have another discussion on that. Unless Trustee Eastman, you have any comment on that at this point, or would you rather we just did some research?
I think it probably makes more sense to research it and make sure, where it actually should appropriately be.
Okay. Okay. Happy to do that. Are there any other questions or comments on the bills? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I have a question.
Trustee Dickon.
Yeah, item number 504, Chicago Tribune, advertising expense at $1,143.58. What do we advertise in the Tribune for that amount?
That's the public notice for SSA 35.
Oh, wow. It costs that much to advertise.
Well, we couldn't use the Tribune this time. Tribune was probably about $700, $800, and it's a very long legal, it's a legal description, all the PIN numbers. So.
And this is just part of the requirements that we have to go through when we have public hearings?
For creation of a special service area, often for many zoning hearings, we have to publish in the paper. This is an unusually long notice.
No, I'm just trying to kind of get up to speed, but do we have to publish in the Tribune, or could this be a different publication?
We have to publish with a newspaper that's of general circulation within the village,
okay,
which is a term of art that has a strange meaning these days. And so the Tribune has been cheaper, believe it or not, but unreliable. And I've tried the Lake County Journal, and the last time recently I tried the Northwest Daily Herald. And I'm finding their prices are a little higher than what the Tribune was, but much more responsive in terms of service and reliability. So I'm struggling to find a way to get our publications done as efficiently as we can. The Tribune actually completely, they lost a notice, then they couldn't publish it the right time, then they apologized, then they just never got back to me. They never even published it.
okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. May I have a motion to approve, please?
I'll move.
Trustee Jamerson moves. Second.
Second.
Trustee Clayton. Roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
Trustee Dickon,
Aye.
Trustee Eastman,
Aye.
Trustee Haber,
Aye.
Trustee Hollander,
Aye.
Trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, moving forward, the Treasurer and Finance Committee report, please.
I can go with the treasurer's report if that's fine.
Please. Thank you,
Okay,
Hal.
sure. Well, as you can imagine, rates are at pretty much the low end of the spectrum of what we've seen historically. Our current portfolio has an average yield of just around 1%. We've had a lot of maturities and will have in the next 90 days. I believe we have about $1 million coming due. I was working with Danielle as early as today, most recently as today, and we reinvested $245,000 at 0.55%. We talked about the wisdom of just sitting on the sidelines, waiting for things to tick up. And of course, I think they will, but we'd spend probably another year on the sidelines. Her current opinion was hopefully a little bit more optimistic on rates up until the recent flurry of the Delta variant. And then with the Afghanistan news, she said rates were just kind of dropping precipitously in front of her. The average treasury yield going out 3 years is 0.35%. So the fact that we were able to get 0.55% for a comparable 3-year turnaround, we're trying to lock in. Again, we're staying no farther out than 3 years. At 2 years, it drops off, and at 1 year, we might as well stay in cash. Our current blend is 43% in CDs, 41% in municipal, and 16% in corporate. We did invest, I think it was about a month ago, in a 2-year yield at 0.30. It was a Port Authority of New York, all highly rated. The CDs are all FDIC backed. So we're still staying very, very secure. Unfortunately, the yields just suck. Right now, our cash flow is about $89,000 a year from the portfolio going out from August to August. So I guess we're making the best of a situation, and Danielle's always keeping as much cash as possible till something comes along that is around this 0.6%, 0.55. So that's what we're looking at, and that's kind of our benchmark, unless we can get something shorter that's close to that. But it's just a hard market to take anything, except if you want to assume more risk, which she knows we're not going to. So that's pretty much it. We've got about a 1-year average life. I think I mentioned that in the portfolio, and it's that's a combination of new and old, and we're just under 1%. But as this $1 million comes due in the next 90 days, we're probably going to dip closer to 0.8% on the portfolio. And that is it.
I'd like to ask a question. How much more room do we have in the corporate sector? What's our limit? I'm sorry, I don't recall.
I don't know that exact answer, but I believe we've got at least another 9% up to 25% on that. As long as they meet the criteria.
Yeah.
We're okay.
Yeah.
But I'll get that exact amount, but I believe it's at least 0.25.
No, I just wanted to hear that we had more room. You don't need to do that.
Yeah. And they aren't really favorable right now too. I haven't seen too many. I've seen the CDs, the corporate CDs, but those have the backing. Otherwise, we're on just the corporate paper where and I think she's a little bit shy of that. We haven't done any real corporates in the past 6 months.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Haber?
I suspect that the rate will be the same or worse, but I'm wondering if we're keeping an eye on what the IPTIP rate is in case, I know we moved away from IPTIP previously to more of a managed portfolio, but I'm just wondering what the IPTIP rate is currently, if we know.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's usually lower, Mike, but I will get the current rate on that. There were actually 2 funds, IPTIP, and I forget the name of the other company that put it together.
Yeah.
A similar comparison indexed product, but I'll get that rate for you. I don't think it's competitive, but it would be better than sitting at 0. The question is whether I can, Danielle can add that for our cash position should we want to sit at anything. But I don't know that they can handle it per se. I think it has to go as a separate off JP Morgan's balance sheet.
Yeah, I think we would have to do it direct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Village direct. I'm not sure though.
May I make a request that maybe when Hal makes these reports, he has those numbers for us in advance, because we probably won't hear about it again for a month, and it'd be worth hearing what the rates are. I'm glad Trustee Haber asked.
Yeah, it's a 0.2%.
IPTIP?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I appreciate your comment about the in advance. Any other questions for the treasurer? Trustee Clayton?
The financial results for the first half of the year were in the packet. This is a new format and a new report for us that we post on the website.
So if anyone has any questions or comments about the nature of the report, what's included and the way it's formatted, I'd appreciate some feedback on that. With regard, oh,
Trustee Haber, do you
I
have a
don't know if
question?
you want to, no, but I was just going to suggest, first of all, thanks. I think it's great, really easy to read. Great. But occasionally there's like an aberrant number that, like, for instance, we had like in general revenues administration, prior year was, or not, expenditures for administration. It was an outlier number. And I think that was probably related to the campus. But if we're going to post it on the website, I think it may create maybe some questions as to like why in 2019
Right.
or 20 it was so huge and suddenly now it's only 400,000. So maybe we can asterisk those items or
Right.
put notes just so that people understand, where that difference is.
yeah, great point. And we definitely need to do that. And sometimes it's easier for someone else who's reading it to find those things. So we'll try to scrub it a little bit more closely and see if we can provide explanations for some of the data. With that in mind, if I could share my screen. Hold on. This is the result for the period ended, in July. And there's a couple things to note on here. One is that police expenditures are considerably lower, almost $200,000 lower than budget. And I've checked with the chief and he informs me that all but about 10,000 of that is real savings. Some of it, the 10,000 is timing to buy ammunition, but that's going to come. So that's something that we can bank on going forward. And the second thing is to take a note of under expenditures, the road and bridge expenditures. Those are considerably over budget. And I believe right here, those are due to the Saunders Road Phase 1, which wasn't budgeted, but I would like to check with Pat on that. And the second question I have for Pat is whether any of that engineering expense, about $63,000 of engineering expense, should have been MFT related, MFT funds.
It would, it should be. The board approved and we cleared the paperwork with IDOT specifically for Rebuild Illinois MFT funds. So that should be coming out of the MFT fund. We need to account for the Rebuild Illinois MFT fund separately. So my suggestion would be essentially to create a new account in here for that Rebuild Illinois MFT, but that is all reimbursable from that fund.
Okay, great. If anybody else has any other questions about this schedule, let me know.
I
Otherwise-
believe Trustee Jamerson, did you have your hand up or no?
No.
Oh, I'm
Otherwise,
sorry, it was my little cursor.
just a general report. We've made some major progress in the finance area. As you can see, we've caught up on our financial statements and the posting on the village website. We have our MFT certification done. And lo and behold, the Holiday Inn special use fee situation has been straightened out. And they are indeed repaying the forgiveness or the deferral of the fourth quarter special use fees from last year over a 2-year period as the board passed the ordinance. And that's all on schedule, and they've made at least 3 payments with the increased amount of the base amount plus the recovery of the fourth quarter. So that's completed. That's all I got.
Are there any questions? Are there any comments? Trustee Jamerson.
I do have a quick question on the cash summary, Mike. And I'm assuming this is a timing issue, but the Chase Bank for the general fund shows a negative 2 million, but a positive in the investments.
I'm really sorry that schedule got included. This has been a sore point for at least 3 or 4, the whole time that I've been on the board. It's an accounting nightmare. It's not that there's not money in Chase. It's just an accounting thing that I frankly don't understand much myself. So it's the right-hand column in that schedule that's important, and that's the actual balance that we
Okay.
have in that fund.
That's what I figured. So,
Yeah.
okay, thanks.
Other questions? Okay, moving on. Director of Community Services, please.
All my stuff's on the agenda, ma'am.
Okey doke. Consultants reports. Attorneys report, please.
I think the main thing I guess I should mention is that I did receive a communication from the attorney representing the potential developer of the 37 acres to let us know that they've been having some discussions with Buffalo Grove and inviting us to talk to them about some of their thoughts. I don't have a lot more detail about that, but there has been a silence for a while, and the reason is they've been talking to Buffalo Grove.
I don't think that's a surprise. It's a disappointment.
Yes,
Is there anything else you'd like to share after that?
Well, I've communicated some of this in a little more detail to the mayor and to Trustee Hollander. So I sort of leave it to you guys. If you think there's more that needs to be shared at this point, I don't really have any more detail than that, other than there had discussions. They told us Buffalo Grove was, of course, a willing partner, and they'd like to sit down and talk to us.
Trustee Hollander.
I think the only thing I would add is that we're well aware of the concerns that might affect the Riverwoods residents by this project, and we will do what we can to mitigate them in whatever fashion we're able to.
Thank you.
That's all I have. That's not on the agenda.
Okay, engineers report, please.
Only that, and of course, SSA 35 comes a little later on the agenda, but we are, the ads in the paper for this year's road project will publish on Thursday for a bid opening August 9th, and a recommendation that we'll bring to the board meeting on the following Tuesday. That's all I have.
You mean September 9th?
September 9th, yes, I'm sorry.
Any questions? The ecologist not present. Plan Commission report. I don't believe they met.
They did not meet in early August, but we will have a meeting, hearing on September 2nd, which I think will be a Zoom meeting, unless the governor doesn't extend his order. And the purpose of the hearing is to consider zoning text amendments and amendments to the special use that would allow a video gaming parlor at the shops.
Any comments? Zoning Board of Appeals, I don't believe met. Police, oh, I'm sorry, Trustee Haber.
Yeah, Chris, can we go back for 1 second? I have a question for
Absolutely.
Bruce. I've been thinking about those 37 acres that you said that they're meeting with Buffalo Grove.
Sure.
Is there any strategy with respect to Thornton's that we can use to induce the 37 acres to come into Riverwoods as opposed to Buffalo Grove? Because to the extent that Thornton's, as part of that development, might eventually do the truck stop kind of hybrid there, could we require that any expansion of Thornton's would have to be part of the Village of Riverwoods?
Well, the expansion that Thornton's was talking about would occur on property that's already in Riverwoods territorially. Their expansion would not. So, you know, there was a preliminary site plan that showed a distribution facility only on the unincorporated portion. So part of the discussion I'm imagining is how much of the portion of that site that's currently in Riverwoods could be made available for that development, and what would we get in return? So I think those are all subjects that would come up. I think they're looking at whether they can develop entirely on the portion, I think it's about 29 acres that's unincorporated, or whether for various reasons it would be more advantageous to try and get development on some of the property that's in Riverwoods. That they're aware that to develop on the property in Riverwoods, if they weren't all in Riverwoods, it would make sense to try and get a voluntary agreement for a disconnection. So those are all, topics that can be brought up.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Okay, police report, chief, please.
The activity is in the board packets. Of note, on the evening of the storm on August 10th, we did have 6 streets that were blocked by trees or large branches. The officers on duty were able to clear 3 of the streets, and we called in Davy Tree Service to remove 3 large trees. That's all I have.
Are there any questions for the chief? Okay, my turn. The only thing I would like to bring to your attention is that we seem to have a lot of different grants in different places, and I'm going to explore finding a consultant to focus on grants, the application and administration of those grants. And I've gotten a contact via Pat Glenn, and with a group that has done a grant for us in the past, and I'm going to explore that and see exactly how we might work with that. I think we need to bring those things together a little bit better administratively, so that we can we can follow the reports that need to be filed. The annual reports on some of these things were rushed, put together, so forth. So I just want to make sure we're covering the territory and that we're not going to lose anything by missing a reporting deadline on grants and so on. So I just wanted to let you know that I was going to explore that. Again, strictly on an operational administrative basis. Are there any questions? Okay, moving forward, are there any visitors that wish to address the board? Anybody get any emails that Trustee Hollander, please.
I had brought up, I think, to Russ that the sign for the insurance company on Deerfield and Milwaukee is back up. And then I was advised that the individual was going to be coming to the board at this meeting, and therefore he didn't want to take down that sign. I think if the board remembers, we approved the advertising sign only while there was the significant COVID restrictions. But as soon as that stopped, the portable sign or mobile sign would stop as well. Do we have a status report for Vizier?
We absolutely have a status report. And actually I went by that corner, and the State Farm van, or whatever you want to call it, trailer, is not parked in that same place anymore. But Russ, do you want to comment on that, please?
Well, I talked with him today, got him to move it. We were going to have him come in person to the board meeting, but we got him to move it right now. He said he would like to still come and talk at the board meeting. So I talked with the mayor, and we'll see where it goes from there. You know what? Since we've had this conversation, I mean, we've had no complaints at all. I mean, the fact I've gotten a couple of phone calls, which I'm sure he's engineered and put in there, that people like using the trailer, want to use the trailer, and they didn't have any problem with the trailer. So it's going to be a tough one. But right now he has moved it and put it in another place. So we'll see what happens.
Trustee Jamerson.
I would really be interested to find out who's using the trailer and how many times it gets used. I go by there almost every day at different times. I have never seen that trailer move. It has always been there. So to me, it's a billboard. And, you know, I'd like to see his paperwork that shows how often he sends that trailer out and who's using it, because I think he's skirting our ordinances.
Well,
And in
it's-
general, there's signs all over the village. I see little pop-up signs all over the place that are against our ordinance, and Rob used to go around and pick them out, but, and Lake County picks them up on Deerfield Road, I think.
Yeah, they do.
But, you know, there was a sign leaning against the restaurant's base that someone had somewhat pulled up. It was a little, you know, real estate for sale sign or something, not somebody's house. So anyways, you know, as I've said before, if we're gonna have ordinances, we need to enforce them. And if we're not gonna enforce them, we need to get them off the books.
I did have my officers go out and pick some signs up. Obviously, they've missed some, but I'll reissue that order. But I know that they reported to me that they picked on midnight shift, they picked some signs up.
And as I said, I just went by and the trailer's been moved.
Okay.
So we'll keep an eye on that. Point well taken about if you're gonna have an ordinance, you need to enforce it.
But when he does decide to come in to talk to the board, and I'd love him to do that, I would
Sure.
like him to bring with him proof on how often that trailer goes out, because it sounds like he's telling Russ it goes out all the time, and I have yet to see it moved.
Oh, no, he has not told me that it's gone out all the time. He just says that it goes out and customers use it. That's all he said. He's never given me a number, never. So.
Okay, thanks.
Mayor, we did receive no emails for people wishing to address the board.
Oh, thank you. Did everybody hear the chief? There were no visitors wishing to address the board, no emails from visitors. So we'll move on to new business then. Okay, first item is a resolution authorizing the execution of resolutions required for the village brokerage account at JP Morgan and the conduct of certain financial activities. If I could please ask Attorney Hubbard to make a comment.
We have an account with JP Morgan that invests most of our portfolio. Because of the change in elected officers, they ask us to update the banking resolutions so that the mayor and our treasurer are signatories on the account. And that's the purpose of the resolution.
Were there any questions on these? I think it was in your packet. If there are no questions, no further discussion, may I have a motion for approval of the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
You're muted,
You're
Daphne.
muted.
Trustee
Daphne.
Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastland,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
That would be resolution 210804.
Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of a change order with the contract with Midwest Meter. Pat Glenn, can you please speak to that?
I can. So as I noted in my recommendation letter, we had, to my knowledge, for the first time ever, but there was a failure of a water meter fitting for a resident over on Clendenin, and we received correspondence that they had made a claim to their homeowner's insurance, something in the vicinity of $25,000. I did some investigating to try to better understand this, and as best I understand, the village did a meter replacement program back in 2008, 2009, thereabout, and there was between 70 and 90 plastic water meters with plastic fittings installed as part of that effort. And they were installed by the village. And so I figured, I thought it would be prudent, since we already have a vendor going into every home for the AMR upgrade that the board approved, that I would solicit a quote from Midwest Meter to replace any plastic meters and plastic fittings they find with brass meters and brass fittings like we have in the vast majority of our installations. The quote came in at $17,370. I guess I would note that by far the bulk of the cost is material cost for the meter and fittings. You'll see that HBK said that they would install them for $13 a piece because they're already in the basement. So to my way of thinking, this is a one-time opportunity we have to get these meters replaced as inexpensively as we possibly can. I did talk a bit with Mike Grinnell of my office. Mike, for a long time, was the head of Lake County Public Works Maintenance and Operation. And the county had all kinds of trouble over the long term with these plastic meters and plastic fittings. So that kind of reinforced my thought that, you know, this was the first one, but it may not be the last one. And so my recommendation is we authorize this $17,370, not to exceed $17,370 to the contract with Midwest Meter, and go ahead and replace all of the plastic meters and fittings while we're upgrading the AMR system.
Trustee Jamerson.
Just a quick question. I don't have a problem with the proposal. I think we should do it. But is the homeowners insurance company coming after us and/or our insurance company? Do you know? We've only received notice. Bruce, maybe you can.
The insurance company for the homeowner did give us a notice that they might subrogate. That means they might try and sue us. We notified our insurance carrier. Our carrier had an adjuster review the situation, and they advised us that based on various immunities and other things that the village enjoys, as well as the unlikelihood for this amount of a claim, that we just wait and see. The other insurance company may not follow through with anything. And if they do, we would be defended by our insurance company.
Okay, thanks.
Trustee Haber.
Do we know why 70 or 90 meters were plastic at the time in 2010?
I do not.
Do we know if that's what we ordered? Like, did we order some brass and some plastic?
Yeah, it's from what I can gather, and now of course a lot of what I'm getting is from the meter vendor, which is really the only source I have for what was done at the time. But he says, yes, that's what the village ordered and that's what they delivered.
I wonder if we can do a little, investigating into the archives to see if we can actually find those invoices, because it seems very strange that 70 meters would be plastic and all the other ones would be brass. And maybe we have some recourse against that meter company.
We certainly can. Of course, the archives of the village are not what they once were, perhaps, but we can.
Maybe not what they will be.
Right. But we can investigate.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions or comments for Pat? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion for the approval of the change order?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, motion passes. Before we go further, Hal, did you have a question? I'm seeing a little.
Just a follow-up point, the number of our allowable corporates is 30%.
Oh. Thank you so much. Thanks for that.
Sure.
Right, moving on, approval of the contract with Lakeshore Recycling Systems. Bruce, would you like to lead us through
Sure.
that, please?
Sure. So Lakeshore Recycling has been doing our garbage removal for a number of years, since 2012. We have had extensions with them. Our last extension took us into 2021. And the underlying agreement, we've had very good success with. Really didn't want to go through didn't see a point in trying to create an entirely new agreement with someone who knows our village well. In 2018, Lakeshore had given us a chance at going for a 5 or a 7-year agreement. At the time, I don't remember the reason why. I don't think I found it why in the minutes. We elected for the 3-year schedule. But because they gave us a 5 or 7-year option, we had visibility into the pricing they were offering for 5 or 7 years. So when we talked to them about now extending it again, the mayor had a preference to go out longer. They suggested 5 years. And when you overlay the rates that they're offering in the first couple of years of the proposed 2021 extension with the rates that were proposed to us back in 2018, they're not significantly different. So they've pretty much been trending with the rates that they held to all along. So from that perspective, it seemed worthwhile to bring it to the board to say we can continue with Lakeshore without much angst. Their rates are still lower than we would have been with Waste Management when it proposed to us back in 2012. So they still are the most reasonable game in town. There are a couple of, I sent out a slightly revised agreement by separate email because there were a couple of typos that Lake County Lakeshore caught. But the Exhibit A has the pricing schedule, and what's in the packet, if you look on, let's see, page 31 of the packet, I can give you the corrections. At the top of page 31, you'll see that the removal fee per appliance is listed as $1,730. That should just be $30. Is everyone finding that?
A little bit of a difference.
And then the new item here is customer food waste only. This is a new option a lot of communities have been asking Lakeshore to provide. It's, food composting. This suggests that you can get a sticker and apply it to a craft style bag. They changed that, and in the proposal I circulated this morning, they will provide at no charge a 35-gallon cart to anyone who subscribes for this. This is a seasonal subscription for 8.5 months. Somehow right now food composting, I guess the winter it doesn't work, and they view this as basically overlapping with the same schedule as yard waste, which is April 1 to December 15. In some communities, they bundle them together. You subscribe for yard waste and food composting, and they do use the same bags. In Riverwoods, because the number of people who actually subscribe for the yard service is so low, they realized, we talked about it, that it needed to be bundled separately. So there will be a separate option for those who would like to use food composting. And the last change in what I submitted this morning is that on page 33 of the packet, the last page of the pricing proposal, Lakeshore had mistakenly simply repeated the schedule for the 5th year of prices. And in the submittal I gave to you, those numbers are all slightly higher because they show the trend increase for year 5 of the proposal. So those are the pricing differences. We didn't really do much except pretty much copy the form of the extension from 2018. This agreement would run through March 31, 2026, and all of the underlying terms of the agreement that we carefully negotiated back in 2012 would continue to apply.
Trustee Hollander.
There are certain substances we can't give to them, certain types of paints, batteries, certain types of lighting, Is it possible that maybe once a year or twice a year, as we accumulate these things, they can do a service for the village once a year or twice a year to pick up this type of, I guess it's hazardous. I don't know if they're even allowed to do that. Normally, we have to bring it to the fire station or some other location. But if they're allowed to do it, that may be worthwhile to have that once or twice a year.
I'll ask them. My understanding has always been that it had to go to one of the SWACO collection sites.
Are there any other questions or
Rick,
comments? Oh, trustee Jamerson, please.
So one of the things that's in their proposal is an annual bulk item collection. That if we want to do that as a village, they would add 65 cents per household per month. But we have to tell them in advance so they can add it on to everybody. And I think we should seriously consider adding that. Obviously, we don't have to do it tonight, but I think we should think about it the next chance appears to be April 1st of next year. But I think that might be a good thing for the residents. I know that it's been done in the past. I know that they do it in a lot of the surrounding suburbs. And it might be worth for the small fee that they're adding to each customer. It might be worth looking into that and thinking about it.
Okay.
I asked them whether we had done this. I thought we had done it in the village, and Bill Kinney from Lakeshore told me that we, as a village, have not done it, at least.
I don't think we ever did it with Lakeshore. I think we may have done it with the previous, I don't know, Russ might know, but.
Yeah, it was done with Swelco originally, but not Swelco, I mean with
Waste management.
management.
Yeah.
And, but after, I don't know, after I left, I don't know what happened with it. So.
It got expensive. That's what happened, I think.
Waste management got expensive with everybody now. They're unbelievable.
Other comments? Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion for approval of the contract with Lakeshore?
With the corrections that I noted.
With
please,
the
Emma.
corrections noted by Attorney Cooper.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton,
aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastland,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
I have to abstain. I represent Lakeshore.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on, the next item of business is an ordinance pertaining to the coronavirus local fiscal recovery fund for the village of Riverwoods. And this has to do with the U.S. Treasury grant. Attorney Hubbard, do you want to walk us through?
This has to do, yes, with the ARPA funds. Maybe someone remembers at the moment what ARPA stands for, but it's
I
the
used to.
it's the funds that were coming to municipalities as part of the coronavirus relief efforts. There are a number of terms with these types of grants. One of them is that we have to maintain a conflicts of interest policy. Another, various federal guidelines, of course, that we have to agree, reporting requirements. I think the main challenge for the village, the thing that we have to keep an eye on, is that when we get the funds, they're coming in 2 installments. So I think one is supposed to be coming in the fall and another in a year, if I remember, is that there are only specified purposes for which the funds can be used. And we have sort of talked about this at the staff level. One of the purposes is to make up for lost revenue, but then you have to really carefully document how the revenue was lost, how much was lost. But another category is any kind of stormwater, sewer, or water infrastructure improvement. So the purpose of the ordinance tonight is basically to approve executing the grant agreement, and it sort of simultaneously takes care of the conflict of interest policy that we may not have already on our books. But the broader issue that I just would bring to the board's attention as we approve the grant is that we have to devise the right use of the funds, otherwise we have to return them. So we're thinking of a discrete type of infrastructure project that would be the easiest to track and report back on as maybe being the way to go with this.
Trustee Clayton?
We being LNA have a mechanism for tracking and doing this already. So to the extent to which we want to use it either for infrastructure projects or for lost revenue, we can really attack both. The size of the grant is relatively significant. It's 400 and some odd $1,000 if I remember correctly. So I would say we need to go forward with this.
Are there any questions? Trustee Hollander?
How are we going to determine where to spend the money if we get the grant? I mean, what is the process going forward? Obviously, this was brought up in the staff meeting, but that's a significant amount of money, and water is always an issue here. So I have two questions. One is it really limited to only water and drainage? Are there other opportunities that might be available for us? And second of all, how are we going to make this decision?
Well, to answer the first question, lost revenue can be replaced and applies to any kind of lost revenue. So once you've replaced the lost revenue, then you're not limited to the use you make of the money, to Trustee Clayton's point. And the rest of the determination was up to the board. I mean, it's basically if we can, we know we have a reporting issue, but if LNA can solve this in terms of the lost revenues, it's really just an opportunity field that the board will have to think about. I mean, it's.
I think oh, excuse me.
Please go ahead.
I'm sorry. Henry, I think as part of the capital plan, we can lay out various alternatives for spending on infrastructure that's within the grant scope. And we can also identify the amount of lost revenue that we can document. So we could take that off the top if we want to, and then we can identify different projects and the board can choose.
Is there a time limit on this? I mean, do we have to do this within a certain time frame?
Michael, you might remember, I think we have 2.5 years or something like that to spend.
Right. It's a relatively long time. We do have to file for the grant, I think, by the end of the month.
Yes, that's it for sure. Trustee Jamerson, you had your hand up earlier.
I had my question answered, but to answer the question that was just asked, December 31st, 2024 is what the paperwork says has to be spent by.
Trustee Haber?
Would the lost sales tax revenue be included in there?
Yes.
So that's a pretty easy one to calculate, right, or quantify.
Are there any other questions? Any other discussion at this point?
Since it's an ordinance, and by the way, this was based on a model ordinance that the IML prepared. I'm hoping that they had some great insight into why they did it this way, but they did do it as an ordinance, so we need a waiver of first reading to adopt it tonight.
Ooh, okay. Do I have a motion for waiver of first reading
So
and
moved.
adoption?
Second.
So moved.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Oh, we need a
Oh, I
roll
mean, I'm
call.
sorry, roll call.
Sorry.
God, I was so good. I was so close.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Move for a second reading and adoption.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Ordinance 210816.
Okay, moving on.
Chris, did we skip the Scariata Enterprises contract?
Oh, gosh, thanks so much. We absolutely did. Let's go back. Thank you very much. That's really an important one and really something I'm really glad that we're looking at. The approval of a contract with Scariata Enterprises for public works and maintenance services. The idea behind this contract is that we would have one place to call for repair work, for cleaning, for maintenance, and so on. Rather than trying to hunt down a plumber for the sink or hunt down somebody for the HVAC system, we would be able to call one person. This firm acts as actually the Public Works Department of the Village of Bannockburn and gets very high marks. We had him in for an interview, and operates like a contractor, and has a number of their own employees that do certain services, but also they work with firms that they have worked with and had trust in before. We had one experience with them just on a one-off because there was a noise in the ceiling in my office, and we called and thought, okay, we'll call and see how this goes. He had some HVAC guy out within the next half hour. He went up in the ceiling. It was just a loose wire, fixed it, and he was gone. It was, one call does it all. At any rate, I've been looking for something like that, trying to see what we could have to take care of both of our buildings, so that the chief wasn't spending a lot of time looking for somebody to work on plumbing, or we didn't have to go out for various, 3 and 4 calls to get a plumber to fix the kitchen sink here. So that's the background behind this. And if anybody has any questions, I think we'd like to ask that. Trustee Hollander?
Is this the company that does our snow plowing as well?
Yes, it is. They have a separate snow plowing contract with us.
My only question is that you've got them down for buckthorn removal. Is that?
There are a list of items in that. There are a list of items in there, and one of them is meter reading. It's a list of things that we could call them on, but that we won't necessarily use them for. And there are probably things that we will ask them to do that aren't listed there either. Trustee Jamerson.
So I have a question. In the overview, it says section A, it says hourly 1 man, $49.50. And it says hourly 2+ men is $29.50. I'm assuming what that means is that first man's $49.50 and any additional men are $29.50, assuming they can all fit in one truck, because the next paragraph says that every truck is $49.50 off the bat. So plus the dates are to be determined, which we probably have to.
Well, I was going to ask if the board approves this, to approve it subject to village attorney review and approval, because I am still trying to rough this into a executable contract.
Okay, and I'm also a little concerned about the special equipment rentals, like trailers. I mean, is that trailers that they don't have, or in chainsaws? I mean, I think it's great to have somebody that's doing all this, but we have to make sure that they're not dinging us every time we turn around for renting chainsaws, which they should have in their artillery already.
No, let me interrupt a second. He's got all that stuff, but it's not what we're going to probably use him for. We already got Ramon, who does any of our cleanup around the village hall. He does our cutting along Fort Wine and trimming of the trees and doing that stuff. He would be for like emergency use only, or a backup. They could still keep around. Our other guy's been doing this stuff here for 25 years. It's done a great job. Basically,
doesn't mean just because he's been doing it for 25 years doesn't mean he has the right prices. I don't know what his prices is. I don't know how we've gone out for bids on that, but I still am concerned, even after hours, if they come out and they start charging us rental for chainsaws and trailers and other things that they already have in there.
Will it make you feel better?
Just look at the way the rental language is, Bruce. That's all.
Yeah. Will it make you feel better if one of the clauses that I had put in that's maybe didn't get quite in the package is this would be terminable on 30 days notice? It'd be like so basically we'll use them. If we start having a problem, we'll say we're having a problem.
Okay. All right.
If we use it for cleaning the offices and stuff, he's already going to save us $100 a month just to that alone, just to start with.
How do you know that?
already priced it out with what he would bring in and do it.
We,
We're paying $740 now, and we figured out what, $640 was gonna be our new charge with him. So we saved $100 a month right there.
Is that part of this proposal or is that part of?
It's in there, about cleaning and stuff.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
It's in there about cleaning. We will have him.
But he's, okay, never mind. I'm not gonna argue the point. Okay, thank you.
Trustee Clayton?
Does anything about this have anything to do with prevailing wage?
No. No, of course, his proposal reads like a contractor's proposal, which is not, like the same as when you rough out the contract and you put in termination rights and, some of these things that you brought up, Rick, I'll certainly try and clarify. I have a rider that I was going to, shape and attach to this. So these are all points that we'll try and address.
There is a prevailing wage clause though in the contract.
But he's not, well, the question is whether we're required to require him to have prevailing wage and maintenance services wouldn't be. I didn't see where he said that.
It says if any work performed hereunder is classified as public work, then not less than the prevailing
Right.
rate of wages.
Well, that's true.
Thank you,
A
Mike.
public work applies to a fixed, it's like constructing a village hall, a fixed work is a public work. Maintenance is not, at least currently.
I'm sorry, I just
Trustee
want to
Jamerson.
circle back to this cleaning of the village hall and the police station. I don't have a problem with if he's given us a price to do that, but if he's basing it on hourly rates, it could end up costing us more. If it takes his people longer to do the work than he thinks it's going to take him to do the work. So if you're going to hire him out to do that, I think we should get a specific contract to do that thing that he's going to always be doing, rather than having him have an hourly rate to do it. And all of a sudden it's going to take longer because they didn't think about doing this or doing that. There's a whole bunch of stuff around the village hall that does need to be maintained. And this is probably the perfect way to do it. I just want to make sure that we don't end up giving somebody an open ticket. Time and material, which is basically what this is, can get very expensive. And take it from me, I'm a contractor, I know. I'd much rather work on a time and material basis than on a contract basis any day.
Well, if I hear a lot of these comments correctly, maybe, I don't think, Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, there's nothing magical about approving this tonight or the next, meeting, other than we don't have anyone to call, except if we had an emergency, we'd probably still call Sam, but these are things that we could try and elaborate on and have a little bit more detail in the agreement if we bring it back.
I am not opposed to approving this tonight. I just want to be careful how we move ahead. And I want to make sure that, Bruce, you definitely get a chance to review what it says in his contract.
You'd like a little bit more clarity, is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, but I don't think that needs to stop us from moving forward with this. I just think that we need to make sure that everything that's in here is what we want him to do. And if there's something in here that we don't want him to do, or we want him to give us a fixed price on it, I don't think he will be opposed to giving us a fixed price for doing something he's going to be constantly doing over and over and over again, like cleaning the village hall. And if you can save us some money, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes in the oversight of the contract as well, once we put it in place. And if we get a bill that seems out of line, then that's cause for review. But your point is well taken. Are there any other questions? Chief?
I believe our current contract with our cleaning company is that we have to give them 30 days written notice.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we took a look at the contract and there's a 30-day notice for our current cleaning services. So by certified mail. So we have some time to work through this, work through the contract and give notice and then start the cleaning aspect at any rate of this new arrangement. There are no other questions or comments. Do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Can I just clarify the motion to the extent to which it's subject to the village attorney's review?
Correct.
Yes. Yes. Anything else? Roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, trustee Haber, for that. Ordinance establishing, moving to the last item, unless I missed another. Ordinance establishing Village of Riverwood Special Service Area number 35 for road improvements benefiting certain properties on Clendenin Lane.
Well,
Attorney Hubbard.
thank you. I talked with one of the residents who's been collecting petitions. The time I talked this morning, they had 11 or 12. They need about 19. So they've been passing the petitions around only since Thursday of last week or Wednesday. So they didn't get, I don't, unless Daphne, they got them to you. They haven't come in yet. So we can't pass this tonight. My preference would have been to have it passed tonight, but it looks like they're going to get enough petitions in. If it waits to the next board meeting on the 14th, it might be a little bit of an action-packed night because we probably would also try and have bond ordinances at that meeting. I think that can be done, but if I discover a problem where we have to have a special meeting just to pass this ordinance, so it's passed in advance of the bond ordinance, I'll let you know and hope you won't shoot the messenger. But right now, because I didn't get the petitions in, I think we can't act tonight anyway. So unless you hear from me, my expectation would be we act on this on September 14th.
Okay, trustee Haber.
Can we act subject to you getting the right petitions? Okay.
Anything else on that topic? Okay, old business. I don't believe we have any. No reason to go into executive session. Are there any other comments from the board?
I have a question. I noticed that the electronic sign was
Oh, yes.
funky for a few days. I'm wondering if there's some resolution of that.
Katie was on the phone much of the day today, talking with somebody about blank pieces and so forth. So yeah, we're on it.
It
Okay.
could still be under warranty.
Yeah, that's what it's not more than 6 months old. So I was just wondering what's
Yeah,
the
It should be under
status.
warranty. So,
Well, yeah, getting it fixed and getting somebody to fix it is,
well, we
takes
need
a
to
little
go
time.
back. We need to go back to the sign guy.
That's where,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that. The only thing I would bring up is we're establishing a date and time for our next meeting, September 14th at 7:30. And I'm not entirely sure if it will be virtual or Zoom, or if we will be able to have it Zoom. I'm assuming the preference would be if the only way we can have a meeting is in person with masks, I'm assuming the preference would be a Zoom meeting. I think I heard that generally across the room last time, but we're not going to know exactly what we can and can't do until the 21st. Is that right, Bruce?
Until we know whether the governor is again extending his disaster proclamation. Right now it ends August 21. And so if he extends it, usually like a day or two before is when he typically extends them.
So
And is that the meeting that's gonna start at 5:30?
no,
No?
that would be the October 5th meeting.
Okay.
I'm looking at I have a whiteboard in my office now, so I'm looking at that. No,
Okay.
that would be the October 5th meeting. And hopefully that can be in person and comfortable. But stay tuned for that, what we can and can't do. And unless there's anything else. Seeing no comments, no hand raising, no head shaking. Can I have a motion for adjournment, please?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second?
Second.
Roll call.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Jamerson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll see everybody soon.
And everyone.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night.